Bring your houses, we walk down and flush them out. We don't play it with the
Welcome to the Hearts of Men podcast, a journey into the depths of men's hearts where courage meets vulnerability and wisdom embraces integrity. In a world that often measures a man by his outer achievements, this podcast dares to explore what truly defines a man of character. We unpack the challenges and triumphs that shape men's lives, bringing to light stories of resilience, compassion, and unshakable faith. We believe that the heart of a man is a treasure trove of untold stories, powerful lessons, and profound wisdom. Through authentic dialogues and insightful discussions, we aim to unlock these treasures, one story at a time. So, whether you're seeking guidance, inspiration, or simply a moment of reflection, you're in the right place. Get ready to be challenged, inspired, and transformed. And now, to guide you through this journey of discovery, please welcome your host, a visionary leader and a true catalyst for change, Dwayne Dwyer, but we affectionately know him as the Mindset Coach.
Good evening to the Total Mindset Shift community, to the livest chat here on these airwaves. We got a good conversation for y'all this weekend, this Friday. But I'm not alone. I am, of course, Son of Timothy, the available man. And starting at the top, we got our big brother, the Mindset Coach, also known as Dwayne Dwyer. To his left, we got Mr. Garfield Martin. We know him as the Consistency Coach, Uncle Junior, the Uncle with the Funk, as Coach would say. And next to me, got my big bro, poor man's Dr. Phil, and we call him Shift Happens. And we here ready to engage on this conversation, talking about the myth of the perfect fatherhood. But before we get started, brothers, how y'all doing? How y'all feeling this Friday?
Feeling good over here.
Man, I am literally drained, but I took some Neuro gum, so I'm gonna be all right.
I need some of that.
I'm good, man. I'm good. I don't know what that gum is you're talking about, bro, but I want to know what's in it and what you got in that gum.
It got a weird taste to it, but it's all right. It's straight. They give you like energy, revive. You got a brand called Revive too.
Yeah, it's for
theanine.
Energy. Yeah,
theanine is like one of the main ingredients. Cognitive stuff too.
Yeah. But y'all ready for this conversation? Cause I'm ready to have it now. Let's not negate that this weekend is what we call Mother's Day weekend here. So we do want to shout out to all of our ladies, all of our mothers out there. We love y'all. We got so much honor and respect, and we love what y'all bring to our community. So keep on hanging in there, keep on doing what you're doing. But here on the Hearts of Men, we want to put a little bit on the heart and the mind and the perspective of the brothers. So we're not trying to shoot nobody down. We're not trying to negate nobody, but we just doing what we're doing, we're hanging in there. And we know our chat gonna keep us lit tonight. So let's get started on this conversation. In today's world, we got all kind of battles going on social media and public forums, arguing about what a man is, what a woman is, what a man's supposed to do, what a woman's supposed to do, what a father is, what a mother is. We have these conversations saying, "Oh, fathers don't want kids, fathers couldn't handle kids, mothers this, mothers that," and it's not the aim and the goal of this community, because what we're doing is trying to unite and bring a united front. And so today we want to talk about the conversation of the myth of the perfect father. Um, and for my fathers out there that are in this conversation, you understand sometimes it get overwhelming trying to understand and trying to get a grasp of everything that we have at hand, and trying to be available for our kids, and trying to be available for our families, and trying to be available for our jobs. And sometimes we're not available for ourselves, which causes a breakdown, which causes a withdrawal from the responsibilities we have to the people that are in our lives. And we can't walk around without addressing it, without realigning it, and without getting ourselves refocused so that we can maintain availability for our families, for our community, and for our God. And the only way we do that is by starting to have the conversation. So let's get this conversation going. So I just want to start this conversation off with an easy question, right? We got three fathers with me, 4 fathers on this panel. Our first question is, what is a father? What is a father to you, brothers? How would you define it?
A father is me and Roland and Dwayne and Gaddy. You know what? I think it's been a while since I've actually thought about this question. You know, I've been a father on the 24th of this month will be 30 years. So, been in the game for a long time. I don't really necessarily look at, what it means to be a father, what it is. So I'm gonna take a little stab at it. I think a father is somebody who raises or nurtures, no, not nurtures, who raises or teaches their child. But I also think that I'm trying to see if father is the same as the father figure. Actually, no, I'm gonna keep them separate. So I think a father just, someone who has a child and actually steps up and does all of the things to teach certain things that the child need in order to be a productive person in life. And I think when I'm talking about teaching, that can list a numerous hundreds of different things that father needs to do. So I think for one of those things, I think it's a child that you have, and I guess someone who teaches. But I'm definitely looking forward to hearing what you other fathers have to say.
What is a father? I think you didn't have to retract nurture when you said nurture, because a father does nurture as well. It's not just a feminine trait that mothers only do, because when it comes to being the example, and what I'm doing is I'm saying what I think a father is. It's a person that is the example, not just a person that lives in your house and is a male or has taken part in the making of said person that's a child. But a father is one who sets the example, who leads, who helps guide, who assists in the building of children, the building of them far after their children. I think you can't put father in one sentence or a paragraph, because a father is many things to whomever that they're rearing, because it looks different wherever you are in life. I mean, my father and me don't have the same relationship that we may have had when I was younger. So a father can be many things, but what they should be is someone that helps continue to nurture as well as build those that are under them.
I love y'all, but I heard what a father does. What is a father? A father is the other half of the creative beings that actually created the child. Now we start getting into the eaches of what you guys said. I absolutely agree. Those are things that fathers do or should do. But what is a father? A father is the other half of creativity that actually produces the child.
I like that. My bad. Go ahead, bro.
Man, I need more than that because that's new information, Coach. I don't think I ever heard that. And I understand, what we're saying is things. You know what I mean? I get that.
Mhm.
But can you go a little bit more in detail about that? Because like I said, that's brand new to me. I've never heard that before.
Sure.
Interesting.
Sure. Like you are a school counselor,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if the question was, what is a school counselor? We would define who a school counselor is and what are the credentials to get to that. Now,
Oh,
if we start talking about what you do on your day to day, it's specific to what you do when it comes down to it. But that's not necessarily saying who or what is a father.
gotcha.
This question requires a noun, not a verb. That's just my take on it.
I get that. Yeah, I get that.
And I like that because that is a conversation that's had sometimes, and I listen to some of the forums and stuff that I don't agree with. I like. I don't like. I listen to it all. Right. I listen to the different perspectives, and I've heard that conversation come up quite a bit. Uh, because we always say, mothers are the givers of life. Um, but then I heard someone counter argue, right? And I don't like to counter argue. I like to add to the argument. But I heard someone counter argue the fact that the life is in the father. It brings life to what the mother provides, and then the mother carries the life, and it grows. Now, we're not here to argue which one is more important, what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? Uh, but we're just stating fathers are the other half. The life has to come out of you into the mother in order to bring forth the conception process. So I do like that. I enjoy that. I enjoy the nurturing as well, Uncle Ro. When you brought up nurturing, I think the difference for me, the way I see it, is that the father has a capability to nurture, and it looks different when a father nurtures, right? But it is a mother's instinct, and it just goes to the 9 months process of her body taken away from itself to nurture and bring that baby to full health. So during childbirth, but at least that's how I see it. That's my perspective. Any other alibis in this, but thank y'all for that. What is a father, right? Father is all of that. Father is the other half of the creation. The father is the example, right? The father is the availability. The father the father is the feeling of safety to the children. I don't know about anybody else, but it just feels safer when your father shows up. If it feels dangerous or you feel like you feel lost, the presence of a father changes that atmosphere and it creates the feeling of safety. Um, so I enjoy that. Going forward, let's go to the first actual question under the concept of fathers in the home, because we do understand that there is a difference, right? That there are both. All fathers aren't outside of the home. All homes aren't split. All mothers don't have full custody or have the primary custody. Some fathers do. So when we're talking about in the home, we're talking about with the mother, with and single fathers, however you want to see it on your perspective. But the first question is, um, should disciplining a child wait until their father comes home? Y'all know the old saying, wait till your daddy get home. Y'all know how that used to go. And it didn't happen like that in everybody's house. Some people got whipped twice. I get it. But do you believe that that is conducive to the environment, to the father, or even to the upbringing of the child?
Yes, because I've been stressed out all day and I need a fresh tail to whoop when I get home. No, absolutely not. Look, I get it. I understand that thing. And I think that there are situations and there are cases where sometimes the mother may want to consult with the father before a discipline is handed out. You know what I mean? I think there are certain situations where you may want that other person's input or buy-in, especially if it may be something new, something y'all haven't crossed before. But in general, as a general statement, I'm going to say no. I think that when you say, hey, wait till your father comes home, I think what you do is you undermine, not you undermine, but you lose your authority, because now they say, well, I can do whatever I want to do around mom. You know what I mean? I just got to worry about dad. You know what I mean? So I think that for me, the answer is a no. I think that when it comes to disciplining children and stuff like that, for the most part, my approach, and again, this is my perspective. This is my 30 years as being a father. This is just from my lens and what may or may not have worked for me. But I think initially, you handle it then. And I think that there are certain special situations and cases where you may need to consult with the other person before a certain discipline is handed out.
I'm with Unc. I say no. I think that you never put off correction. Uh, I think some people, when they think discipline, they automatically go to the punishment of a whooping or something like that. But I think correction needs to be adhered to right now. I need to push this forward so that you understand that this is unacceptable. Now, yes, me and your daddy or whatever will have a conversation, and whatever that other parent does is what that parent does. But I'm not sitting up there waiting. And most time when I was growing up, that was for them boys that she may not have been able to handle. And she's like, okay, yeah, I may not be able to handle it right now, but your daddy gonna handle it when he get here. So I would say no for everything that Unc said, because you establish new rules, new guidelines when you put it off, because you may forget, and that's what they banking on. You may be more lenient, or you may get me in the posture like Unc said, I'm tired and I just got off work. I want to, do this. But I think that sometimes you can get somebody that's frustrated and it turns from a correction to an abuse because of the mentality that I just got off work and now they thinking about all those things and I got to deal with that.
Yeah, mine is going to be along with everybody else, no. For every reason that Miss Charlotte Jordan stated, because that's exactly what I was thinking. Like when you do that, you're making the dad to be the bad guy. It's almost like you're putting off doing it because you don't want to do it because you know how it's going to make the child feel and so forth and so on. So wait till dad get home. And also it kind of puts a degree of fear in the child whenever the child starts thinking about dad, because at the end of the day, he is the one that wields the stick. And so every time it gets wielded, it always done by him. That's not right. That's not an accurate depiction of what parenting is all about. And it's a sad thing because, as you said, we've all seen that done in the past. But then the question becomes why? What is the reason behind wait till your dad get home? Like it's almost like you make a child stew in what they're expecting and knowing is going to come. So now the child has a degree of anxiety in them. And it's almost like when dad comes through the door, it should be a joyous moment, but it's not, because to that child, it's like, you about to bring the thunder and I ain't ready for it today. So yeah, the answer is absolutely not.
Now, I know Gaddy about to go, but before he go, I will say it can be effective, right? Just because it's not, which kind of don't mean it can't be effective. I remember, I don't know if Charlotte Jordan remember, she in the chat, so she might remember. I remember a long time ago, we were living over on Rolling Hill, and I did something, and I got in trouble. And I remember she said, "You gonna get a whooping when your dad come home." Right. So when I knew I was gonna get a whooping, oh, baby Unc used to straighten up. Right. So I'll straighten up, fly right, do the right thing. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Um, want to do everything right because you hoping that when dad come home, you don't get that whooping. So I remember a day went by, I didn't get a whooping. I think like 2 or 3 days went by and I still didn't get a whooping. And he finally came up to me and was like, I'm still gonna give you that whooping, right? I never did get the whooping, but it did help keep me straight and in line for a couple more days. Now I do understand, my answer still is no, but I am just highlighting an example where at least in the moment it was effective. Now it may not have been effective for the long run. I don't really remember. I was pretty young then, but I do remember that story.
See, and I think that also teaches the child that mama's good for this, daddy's only good for that. So it's like when he come around, we know it's business, we know it's this. See, so now when it comes to me trying to, I got to look for colleges, or I got to do this. I have questions about certain areas of life. I'm not going to daddy because he's pretty much been only the disciplinarian. And I go to mama for everything. Mom needs some money. She gonna come ask me, but you gonna ask her. So it kind of puts him in a corner somewhere until needed. Like, okay, you know how those things break if necessary. It puts him in a position of that instead of him being that person that you can actually come to for whatever.
Yeah, I resoundingly agree. I think it's all around the board no. But then I read this comment. Uh, can we bring up Adrian's comment real quick? She says, "I know of a husband whose instructions to his wife about their sons were, I'll do the dusting up, you do the dusting off." It made me think there's another perspective to it. Not saying it's right or wrong, but I'd like to kick that can around in this circle real quick because I get it, especially when they get older. Like for me, this sounds like and our sons are getting bigger, and so so now that's a part of my instructing my sons, and so I will do the discipline because they're getting bigger or whatever the case may be, and you dust them off.
I don't know what dusting up and dusting off is. I'm not trying to be being for real.
I tear the butt up and you color them after.
Oh, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
If I won't answer it first, here's my answer to Coach's question, what I think it is, and that's how I'm going to answer it. I remember how when we was NCOs, we tear a soldier down, we could smoke them, blah blah blah. We could use our words to really break that soldier down. And remember, like for us, at least for me, Sergeant Majors do that, and then they'd walk away. Well, I learned how to build the soldier back up before I walked away. So maybe that's what they're thinking. And if that's what they're thinking, that's what I'm assuming. So that's how I'm going to answer it. I think that if that works for you, by all means, go for it. However, I think it's one of those things, kind of like what I was saying about my story. That may be good in the beginning, but what are the long-term effects of one person doing one job and the other person doing the other one? I don't know. I've never really heard too much about this situation before in a marriage where one person, kind of was the disciplinary and the other person was kind of the other person. So I don't know. So that's kind of my 2 cents about it. I think, again, not knowing too much about it, I would say that it may be good right now, but I don't know how that would be effective in the long term. But again, it may work.
When it comes to this, so what happens? Like me, I had a bunch of girls growing up. Then had one boy.
Or you go to Iraq for a year.
Right. So do I not discipline the girls? Do I not say anything to them when they doing wrong? Do I say wait till your mama come home? You see how it minimizes my authority in the house? It minimizes her authority in the house. I think that when you do that and you allow the children to now they can play both sides against another because they know, oh, mama may be softer, so I'm gonna play on her soft side. And now I can get away with more, or daddy may be softer to the girls or whatever. I think that when you establish discipline, it's discipline. It's like whether it's you driving or me driving in Texas, the speed limit says what the speed limit is. So the punishment gonna be the same, should be the same.
Yeah, and the reason I started off because you guys know this already. Like we used to use terms like dusting off to mean just the opposite. So that's why I said I didn't know which one is, what it means. I mean, I get it. That's their instructions for their house, and if that's what works for them, I'm happy for them. Good on them. If the dad want to be the one to dust up, right? Then dust up, have at it, bro. But again, sometimes that kind of gets, and I get it. We got sons here, right? And I understand the dynamics. I agree. It should be a form of discipline between father and son. But there also should be some discipline between mother and son as well. Because if we have two separate styles of relationships, just by virtue of their genders, the styles of relationship is going to be different anyway. The father trains the son, the mother nurtures the son, the father nurtures the daughter, the mother trains the daughter. I get that part. But to add a little extra garnishment on top of what nature's already provided can be just a little bit overboard. So I don't necessarily have to give instructions except for when you're going too far in one lane or the other. I think, and that's, to me, that's the thing. I think when it comes down to parenting, I don't know of any parent that actually was given an instruction manual when the baby came out. So that being said, I think your understanding of a father evolves over time, just as her understanding of a mother evolves over time. And then what ends up happening is that through the art of communication, helping the other parent understand when we're doing too much nurturing for our son, because I want my son to be raised in a particular fashion, to behave a particular fashion, and so forth and so in a particular fashion, so forth and so on. But sometimes we can go a little bit overboard. So that's what I'm saying. If dusting up and dusting off works for them, dust up and dust off.
And coach, you brought up something about males versus, daughters versus sons. And I think, when I had a different relationship with my mom than my dad growing up, especially during those high school years. I never feared my mom. I was never scared of my mom. Growing up, I was a little fearful, a little scared, a little nervous about my dad or whatever like that. But as I got older, I felt like I could be disciplined more by my mom. I was more open to the discipline by my mom than I was by my dad, especially during those years. And my dad, sometimes got combative. We got at it a little time, because I didn't necessarily like how he was living his lifestyle. So, but I also remember like 13 being jacked up by my mom up in my collar for being disrespectful. I think to this day that may have been the last time that I've ever disrespected her. But, even with this question, I was, like I said, I was open to the discipline that came from my mom. There was respect there that, she could say something to me and I didn't yell and scream or attack back. Whereas when my dad said something, because I didn't have that respect for him during that time, the conversations would be a little bit more to it, So I like how you brought that piece in there when it comes to, daughters versus sons and stuff like that. So like I said, I just think during that time, the respect that I had for my mother versus my father dictated how I was open to the discipline that they tried to discipline me with.
And she's only 5 feet tall.
That is correct.
I love it. I saw that too. And I
Did
saw
that-
my
Go
bad. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying, did that discipline through your mother, was it more? See, I think that there was a consistency with the mothers that there may not have been with the fathers. If he's only around to do this, he's only around to bam, he lay down the law and he in the streets. And mama's there when you up, when you're down, when you whatever. So her discipline seems more genuine because of the relationship. Because now I had a better relationship with my mother. I did, because she was there more. My father coming, Papa was a Rolling Stone. As you know, the name was true. So when he came around, it was like, it was almost a disrespect that you were showing, but you didn't want to say.
Yeah.
So it's like, this ninja, why are you coming to say this? And he ain't been here, yada, yada. So now there's a dynamic, not just in parenting, but in relationship with each parent.
Yeah.
I agree. Well, I guess it was a little bit different. So like when we moved to Harlem, we weren't too far away from the Bronx. We weren't too far away from my father. And, it only took a phone call. And when we thought we can go hide out in the Bronx, we walked right into a war zone. But when my mother did discipline, when she became a disciplinarian, because my father was no longer in the home with us, it hurt more because my mother was the nurturing, because my mother was to let me bandage you up, let me dust you off, let me, straighten your clothes. How you feel? He did it because he loved you. That was mama. So when she did it, it's like, you don't love me no more. It hurt a little bit more. And it really makes you made me sit and think like, dang, this must have been real bad if she tapped in. And then I saw in the chats too, a lot of mothers were the disciplinarian, right? So even when Coach brought it up, so I see that's not an individual experience, right? What was it? Nick D said, my daddy never tapped in. And Dr. Lisa said, she was more of the disciplinarian. And so I see it. I can see what you're saying about the genuineness of it feeling more genuine, because she's not just there when it's time to get a spanking or get a whooping, whatever word you want to use that feels more appropriate today. But I don't disagree with it. I like it.
I would also say this as well, because I believe this is the thing, and this describes my upbringing. Having to be a disciplinarian out of necessity and proximity is not the same thing, right? When we're talking about, like when I talked about the different types of relationship between mother and son and father and son, that's one thing. For me, both of my parents are disciplinarians, and they lived in separate homes. So I got disciplined at the home I lived in. And then when I went to visit my dad, and I'll be honest with you, when I got disciplined by my dad, it hurt worse. Not just physically, because it did hurt physically worse, right? Not just physically, but mentally as well. Because in my mind, like, I don't get to see him that often. So, did I want it? Sure. But at the end of the day, it bothered me more than it did when I got disciplined by my mom. So I think a lot of times when we talk about things, and I'm not saying anything against nothing that anyone previously said or is saying in the chat, but I think sometimes we look at something by virtue of proximity and necessity and say, I had to be. Well, sure, absolutely, because there was no other person to do it. But then, when you have that other person that is there, and I'm hypothetically speaking, let's just say, Tamika and Tyrone got back together after the breakup, right? Well, can Tamika get up off the reins and let Tyrone, fill his role when he comes back in? So just, again, just another way of looking at it. But again, whatever people do in their household, that's right. Whatever they choose to do. Right for them, that is.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, that's why, and that's a part of the reason why that comment stood out to me, because just like what you said, there's something, we all here said no, it shouldn't wait till daddy get home. We shouldn't make daddy out to be the bad guy, and we all agree on that. Uh, and then for me, there's another element to it too. Like I don't like spanking my children, especially when they're young. Hours after they've done something. Like what was done at the moment they've done it, because at a certain age, they trying to remember why they're being spanked. What I did, what they done moved on. You know, when they get a little bit older, they remember. And like Rose says, you know, or no, it was Uncle said, you know, sometimes you have that fear lingering, waiting for it to happen because you remember you did it, and you know you're supposed to get your butt whooped for it. You know, and so I get it, but like you said, at the end of the day, if it works in your home, it works in your home. But the idea is not that we just wait till daddy get home. That some things need to be addressed, and I think that sometimes it weighs on the father when he got to come home, and then he got to be the bad guy, and then it eventually you get to somebody brought up that resentment. You know, like I don't want to go to work all day to pay all these bills to come home to then be resented by the kids I want to love on. You know, I want to go outside and toss a football with, right? Because they and don't get me wrong, I think the kids they do get a little extra excited when you want to play because they're like, I'm used to getting that whooping now. I get to go outside and play. You know, at least I've seen that with my kids. You know, at one point this felt like I was primarily a disciplinarian, but then when we would do fun stuff together, I could see that extra excitement. Like there's more to daddy than this. But let's move on. So, speaking of the time, I think Ro brought up the time availability of the father. Sometimes when you're working and you're doing all this stuff, you have a lot going on, right? And so when you get that time, that available time off, how should that time be prioritized? Is it prioritized with the spouse or with the children? What say you, gentlemen?
You prioritize with your spouse. That's what I'm going to say. Now, that does not mean that I neglect the children. It just means in the priority ranking, she comes first. That's how I roll over here. Now again, that's how we roll up in here. That's what I believe. I think that's how it should be, because I think what happens is a lot of times we put the children first and we focus everything and all the available time on the children. And then when the children up and get up out the house, they get up in age. Now we looking then in the bed trying to figure out who each other is, you know, because we hadn't prioritized our relationship and different things like that. So I think, you know, if it come down to the two, just based off of these questions, with available time, and these are the two, I think you prioritize that time with your spouse, again, with not neglecting the children.
Man, your kid's 45 years old. I get that.
They are. One about to be 30.
No,
I ain't have to worry about this now. It's just two of us in the house.
Gotcha. So it's a very interesting question. And looking at it the way it's written, it's almost comical because it's like, what should father prioritize? Time, spouse, or children? That's what I see as I look at it initially. I think it all depends. Obviously, these are conversations that you're going to have with your spouse, hopefully before that person became your spouse, right? But every day is not going to be the same thing. Every situation does not present itself the same. There may be some days that, you know, she got to go pick the child up from school. There may be some days I got to go pick the child up from school. There may be some days that she cooked. There may be some days that I have to cook, right? So it all depends. I don't think this is a cookie cutter response. Prioritization is in, and again, this also refers to the stage of life that they're in. Because if they're in the building stage, priorities look different. If they're in the later stages in their life, priorities are going to look different there as well. So I think when we look at all this question right here, there's several different ways you can answer this question. And I don't think that there's one specific right way to answer it, except for when you look at what you do with available time. And available time, like I think just spouse and children are not the only things that you inject in there. You know, time with the father, time with your parents, time with your spouse's parents, time with siblings, because all of that. And again, these are not everyday occurrences except for time with the father. Um, so all of that has to be factored in. Do we just sign our kids up for every, Pop Warner sport there is so that we have no time to spend together? I think that's a crazy thing to do, but I see a lot of people do it. And they spend the rest of their available time running across town, being soccer mom and soccer dad, or whatever the case may be. If you're doing that together as a family, that's one thing. If you're doing it just to make it look like you're doing a good job as a parent, that's a whole other thing. Because I think a lot of that happens as well. Because let's just be completely transparent. If my child is, playing football, then playing basketball, then playing soccer, and then we just keep rotating between those sports every year, then what I'm doing is really allowing my child to be raised by somebody else. Let's call it what it is. Don't make no mistake about it. Coaches have a huge influence on the life of your child. I'm not going to go there. I'm going to leave that one alone. But I'm just going to put that out there and leave it right there. Coaches have a huge influence on the life of your child. Did you vet the coach? I got it. They're just playing the sport. Did you vet the coach and understand what the coach believes based upon what it is you're doing? Because you have no idea what type of conversation takes place. This is all prioritization, by the way. I still haven't left that. I'm just talking about different things up under that. So all of these facets of growing up, raising your child, nurturing the relationship that you have with your spouse. If you're in the early ages, you're in the early years, you're still building that relationship as well. All of these happen. So what should fathers prioritize? Yes, that's a great question.
Everything they said. No, I think when it comes to how it's worded, I'm reading it and it says fathers. The father is not the spouse's husband. And I think how it's worded, it seems like we're talking about a nuclear family. So, the two-parent household with the kids and everything, how you should divvy up your time.
Yes.
And that's like you know how it is when you have small children. It's gonna be some time where before it's mommy and daddy time, we got to manage these children. We got to get this thing together. So exactly what Coach said. So when it comes to father and spouse, I'm not her father, so I'm not coming to in that aspect. So I think that when it comes to the connection, first, you always start with the root. The root of connection is mother and father. You establish that. And now you two have the conversation of how we're going to deal with the children, how we're going to manage everything that's going on within our household and beyond, as Coach said, because you have other things that you have to manage when it comes to relationships that are outside of your household.
I'm with it. Right. That's as Ro used to say all the time back in the day, that's your first ministry. Right. So you got to nurture that. I'm with it. We do have to find time to set aside to prioritize time with children, especially in a nucleus home, right? But both parents, because today both parents work, but especially if mom's at home with the kids, maybe I go love on mom and I go play with the kids to give mom a little break because I know she tired, especially if the kids are not in daycare, right? Um, but my main priority of doing that is to give mama a breather. And so, but I'm also seeing the kids in this scenario as younger children. So if they're younger, yeah, it kind of it does look different, because you do have to make sure that, especially when you come home from work, you go pick up the kids, you bring them home. Now, what you got to do, you got to feed the kids, you got to read with the kids or do homework with the kids, and then you got to get them ready for bed. And sometimes, and when you said that, Coach, about someone else raising your children, absolutely, because during the day, the school is raising them, and 9 times out of 10, by the time you get home, only thing you got time to do is make sure they do the homework that the teacher that's raising them left for them to do, and then feed them and put them in the bed. You're really just a place for them to lay their head, and And so time does need to be prioritized with the children. So I say yes, it's the spouse. You do find that time. That's the time you prioritize, but we do need to find time as a unit to spend time with the children. But if the mother is home with the children all the time, it is important that the children get some time with the father. I do believe that. So then my next question would be, what should the father do with that time with the children? Like, how should that time be spent?
That depends on the relationship. Because I remember I used to come home and then somebody be over in the corner talking about how many apples did Johnny have and all this with a belt. And now I got to go into save mode. Like, cause hold up, you about to beat the kid because they don't know how many apples and all this other stuff. So I think you should. That's a question for each and every family. I mean, that's not, and then you got to look and see, okay, where are the children? What activities are they in? Because you have to, as well as continue to gain that relationship with your spouse, you have to continue to gain that relationship and grow that relationship with your children because their minds are growing. You want to know where their mind is and what's feeding into it. So I think we as men sometimes would like, oh, let's go throw the ball. To me, throw the ball, man, we about to have a conversation as well. It's not just us out here throwing the ball because now we can dialogue about what I'm going through in life as a young man. So when it comes to the girls, now I got to find something that they like so that I can see where their head is and grow, see where I need to be. Because sometimes it's like, okay, where do I need to be in their lives at this point and stage in life? Because if I'm just thinking, okay, the mama gonna do everything, and say it's not a nuclear family, like I didn't have the nuclear family, and I had two teenage girls in the home with me. So now there are conversations that I wasn't necessarily ready for, but I had to get ready, and I had to learn how to be ready, and it was on the come.
Great. Great perspective. I'm gonna come from the perspective of where I am right now. I have three grown children, 19, 23, and 29, and none of them are in the home. They're in three different states, and where I'm at is a fourth state. So we're all in four different states. And so if you asking me how time should be spent with my children or someone in the same situation who, may be in a situation where they're empty nester and their children are out of the house. Well, what I should be doing is I should be visiting, um, trying to plan, time to physically be in their presence, whether it's me there or them here. I think that I should be spending time through conversation, through text, um, FaceTime, or um, whatever, some sort of conversations. I think that at this point, because I have males, because I have young men, I think that for me, most of my time should be spent trying to continue to build on those relationships. What it looked like, how I spent time with them when they were, under the age of 10, under the age of 15, under the age of 18 is totally different in some ways. Yeah, we can play basketball now, we can throw the ball around, all those things, but it looks different than they did when they were 6. You know, they can throw harder than me, they can throw faster than me, they can do things better than I can now. So yes, we can do all of those things that Roland talked about, but I think where I am at right now and where we are, some of us men right now, where our children are grown, how we spend that time with them looks different. And I think at the end of the day, a lot of it has to do with spending time trying to continue to build on those relationships. And if you are allowed to and you have this space, try to incorporate teachings and lessons learned that you already had and things that you've already been through to kind of help them, kind of give them a cheat code about certain things, especially if they're open to it. So I think that's what we should be doing with our time right now.
My bad. I love it. I love all of those responses. I look at this question and it asks, how should time with children be spent? And my response to that is intentionally according to their development. There are certain stages that my child is in that requires me to be this type of parent. There are certain stages that my child is in requires me to be this type of parent. I can't be the same father to a 5-year-old that I can be to a 15-year-old. So I need to understand the stage of where my child is. I need to understand when my child transitioned from one stage and goes through the gate to another stage. Um, so it requires me to know my child. I know that sounds kind of, second nature, kind of goes without saying, but trust me when I tell you, the way social media is set up, the way YouTube is set up, the way TV is set up, your child spend more time with mediums. And I'm saying it that way intentionally. Your child spends more time with mediums than they do with parents. So the medium is the one that's training your child. But for fathers, I remind them that the scripture says, do not provoke them to wrath, but train them up in the ways that they should go, so that when they get old, they do not depart. So when I look at how should time be spent, my time as a father should be spent teaching, nurturing, and developing through all stages of their early developmental years, so that when it's time for them to make that transition through the gate, it is easy for them. We see it all the time in children. Children struggle because parents are too busy. Parents are still trying to make their mark in society. Your mark in society is found within those kids that you gave birth to. Make a mark with them, right? Set them up so they can leave their mark in society, because it's too easy. And this is not a blanket and holistic statement for everybody, but it's too easy to look at a young adult and see where the parent failed them based upon the way that they respond to adversity.
Say that last statement one more time.
It is too easy to look at a young adult and see where their parent failed them based upon the way that they respond to adversity.
I tell people all the time, like, my idea when it comes to raising children is like, and I know I'm the youngest here on this panel, right? Probably one of the youngest, not the youngest, as we go throughout the community, right? But the way I view raising children is the idea that I am not raising children. I am caring for children, but I am raising future adults. And I think we forget that aspect. It's crazy when you say, but the thing that you allow them to do at 6 is helping build the identity of who they are at 25 and 30. And so when we talk about the nurturing, I think sometimes we think of nurturing as spoiling children. It's not the same. The children need to be nurtured, but the children definitely need to be trained. And every time we talk about it, and because all you military folk, y'all sound like NCOs, so I feel like one of y'all about to come out and say, I got to teach, coach and mentor. Like I feel like I'm waiting on that to come out. But in a sense, we have to. The first time that they get some type of coaching shouldn't be when they leave the house. We have to prepare them to be able to endure and thrive in life and in society, be a part of the society, right? Be a staple in their community, to be a vessel in their home, to be a vessel to their God. Like, these are things we should teach them. And then even when we talk about that discipline, I think in today's day and age, this is why we have so many younger cats that can't really deal. It's because I feel like every generation wants to move further and further away from disciplining. And it's not just about you did something wrong, so I'm gonna put the rod upon you. But no, there are constantly, it's a life lesson there too. Behind every bad decision is a consequence. Behind every good decision, there's a good consequence. So I do also believe in allowing my children to see a reward. Daughter had the best report card she had in a long time. You know what? Daddy has to be purposeful about making sure she understands that whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. So we're gonna go get some ice cream, baby. We're gonna go do daddy daughter time. Let's go get some ice cream, something, whatever you want, and celebrate. Let you know I love you when you're not doing good, but I love you when you're doing good, and I'm going to reward it. All right. So and that garners hard work it helps her build a mindset of how do I discipline myself in this area so that I can perform better, and that's a life lesson.
If I can, I think
Mhm.
we look at discipline the wrong way.
Mhm.
Not necessarily here, but I'm saying as a culture, I think we look at discipline as a negative all the time. And so it's like, man, I gotta discipline them and I gotta discipline myself instead of looking at discipline being that it's not about what you can't do, but it's about what you can do to get what you should have, what you should be looking forward to. See, I think when you discipline yourself, people think like in the back they used to be hitting themselves in the back and all this because they're trying to train themselves because they want something. It's not about what you want necessarily, but training yourself to go after what you need, what's best for you, not what best feels good. But we like to go with what feels good, and the quick way feels good. Easy money feels good, but working for something, it don't always feel good. But then the end result is you learn the lesson, you got the discipline that if you stick with something, then you have a gain, and then you feel more pride in it.
Uh, Absolutely. I got another can I want to kick around real quick. Can we bring up Lisa's statement? Her comment. I love it. I love this comment. I'm gonna tell you why. She says, "I was a stay-at-home mom for many years. There's a lot to prepare for as you schedule your family time. Being a home manager is not an easy task." The first thing I want to say, and I'm gonna jump in there first, is one. There's a difference between a stay-at-home wife or mom and a home manager, because you can stay home and do nothing, right? But to be a home manager, especially if you're the stay-at-home mom or spouse and your husband is at work all day, that house being managed, the time being like knowing not having to come home and figure everything out, that is that's a lifesaver in the source. I think that helps make you feel better as the man going to work, or as the person going to work, because it's 2025, but I'm gonna say as the man going to work and coming home, that makes you want to come home. You feel good about the idea of coming home because the home is together, not just that it's clean, not just that the dishes are done, not just that the floor, but the home being managed. That's a that's a whole different conversation now versus a stay-at-home mom. So I commend you for that, because I know that ain't easy. But yeah, that allows us to be able to prioritize that time with the children, and time with mom as well. We're not just coming home, like we said earlier. We're not just coming home. We go to bed now because we eat and go to bed because I'm tired. But it feels good to come home now. It feels more refreshing. I get a little extra jolt, extra energy when I come in the house now because she made the home easier. It's not a second place of work in the sorts. Uh, but what say you, James?
I have nothing to add to this statement.
Me either. I don't know what that's like.
Hey, I'm with you. It's a yeah, that's a different conversation. We say say that for another topic. Oh man. Um. So moving on to the other portion of the conversation, we're talking now about fathers in a split family home, right? Um, dad is over here, mom and children over here, or dad or mom is over here and dad and children is over here, whatever that looks like. Some of us may have had both experiences, some of so I think this conversation is interesting. So with that said, the question is, what are some struggles fathers have when they are not in the home with the children? And the mom, of course.
And I can only speak for me because I've been in this position. Something that I struggled with was I had a mental guilt because and this was me. I felt guilty for not being in the home, for not being there every day, and this was just me. So I had to deal with this so that I can see it for what it was, because I didn't look at it like, man, if we were to have stayed together, we would have been pouring a lot of toxicity into that child. So I think sometimes, and this is me, we don't look at the benefit of you not being in the home, because we only say, "Oh, I'm not there to see him." Wake up in the morning when you wasn't gonna do nothing with him in the first place. You was gonna be at work. Uh, but some of the struggles may have been because I had my daughter. So when my son and his mom split, it was one of those like, man, I'm not there. I can't go to everything. And it's like I started making excuses. Like I can still do all the school stuff. I can still do all of this. I'm just not living in the same house. So the guilt that I put on myself was one of those struggles.
I would say for me, first of all, I would just speak about 1/2 incident situation. Well, I'll speak about the time in Iraq. So I did a 12-month and I did a 15-month. And during that time, um, the family was my ex-wife, my wife at the time, my ex-wife was at home with 3 boys, going to school, and she having to do everything. Well, I kind of felt almost obsolete. Like felt like, as a struggle with the father is like you don't have any input in anything. You do, but you can make suggestions, but you're in Iraq. So whether or not those things are actually being carried out or not, you can't do anything about it. So the feeling of not being able to input certain things into your children when they are away from you was definitely a struggle for me. Another struggle that I went through was, or that some fathers go through, is when you see the train wreck and you can't do anything about it. Let's be honest. Some of these people that got stuff going on with these kids, that they ain't always in the best situation. Sometimes kids over there, they with mom, and things ain't good. And, decided whatever wouldn't happen, y'all married the wrong people, y'all had the baby by the wrong people, whatever. Now you find yourself in a situation to where you're not in the home. Your kids are with their mother, your children or your child is with the mother, and things ain't good over there. Maybe she's dating somebody who is not safe. I've heard of stories where the mom and the husband got divorced, and the mom is dating a drug dealer. And now, the father's upset and he can't do anything about it. And he's struggling because he's like, I can't do anything about it. She dating this dude. If things go left, they come for everybody, and she's not thinking about how she may be putting the child in jeopardy. So I think sometimes for fathers, it is seeing chaos and seeing struggles and seeing certain things that may be going on the other side, and not and feeling like there is nothing that you can do because the courts, or for whatever reason, have decided that it is best interest of the child to be over there, and you can't do anything about it. So if I was to say one word, I would sum it up with the feeling of helplessness is one of the struggles.
I agree with the feeling of helplessness. Because I think I know, and again, I know this is not everyone as I say this. Um, but I will talk about the feeling of helplessness because you are already fighting an uphill battle. You're fighting against a system that doesn't want you around the child. You're fighting against a system that wants you to pay the mama for the child every month. I'm not saying that the child shouldn't be taken care of. I'm talking about the system. And then by that same token, you're also fighting a narrative that you have no visibility on, but it will affect you one way or the other. You don't get the control of the narrative that's happening inside that home while you're in your own home. So the narrative can be about you that you were the worst person on the planet Earth, and at the end of the day, you just got to grin and bear it. So there's a lot of struggles when it comes down to not being a father in the home. One of those biggest struggles goes all the way back to our first question, and that's one of the main reasons why I answered the question the way I answered it. I know that I think I seen the text in the chat. Some people say there may be a technical answer, and there was another version of the answer. I can't remember, but that's why I answered the question the way that I did. True, there are some people who just want to just renounce fatherhood. I get that part, right? But for the most part, I don't think most men want to renounce fatherhood. For the most part, that's my thoughts, my assumption. I think for the most part, they do what they can do within reason and still attempt to have some a semblance of a life. I don't think nobody really wants to eat ramen noodles 7 days a week, or whatever. So I think all of these things factor in. We understand the courts are not for fathers. I don't know if y'all figured that part out yet. It just is not. The courts are not for fathers. The fathers have to fight the courts. Um, there are some aspects of this dynamic to where, and again, we're seeing some changes now, but there are some aspects of that to where that man feels less than a parent because, like you just said, Garfield, he has absolutely no say so in what's going on in that child's life. That man just have to grin and bear. No, and I'm not even talking about who she dating. Nobody cares about who she's dating. I'm just telling you the truth. What we care about is how who she's dating affecting the child. That's the thing. That's the only thing it is. So when you look at it holistically, there's a lot of struggles that no one talks about, that nobody cares about, because we're not the people that's going to complain. We put ourselves in this situation. Tyrone chose Tamika from the beginning. He knew what kind of person Tamika was to a certain degree, but everybody puts on their best dress, when they come to the show. But at the end of the day, over time, you start realizing that, oops, y'all done made a mistake. Y'all done went there too fast. And now this is where we are, right? The struggles are huge. They're insurmountable, right? The only way, and this is just my opinion, the only way to overcome the struggle is that both parents recognize that however you feel about each other goes out the door when that child is born, right? Y'all can dislike y'all can dislike each other all you want to, but there's a child that need both of y'all to figure it out and mature up. That's the issue. Stop being so petty. Stop being so immature and become a mature adult that understands that you have a responsibility to raise that child.
Man, this one is wild because like everything y'all said is every feeling I went through, every single one of them and more. One of the worst ones for me were when it all piled on because somebody put it in there. I think it was Nick D, and I didn't ask to bring it up, but she said something to the sorts of, "It broke my dad down, and my mom used it against him." And I don't think everybody who read that understands the levels to what she said, because the fact that it broke him down takes away a part of his availability. It's hard to muster the energy when you're not emotionally available to be what you need to be in front of those children. And sometimes the breakdown comes because some mother, and I love this chat because I do love that we understand that all of us are fathers speaking from our perspectives and experiences, and there's not, we don't have to deal with the invalidating the experience for the opposite opinion. So I love that in this chat. But continuing to say what I'm saying is, but when I have to deal with jumping through your loops on top of the building while you building an opposite narrative of me than what's happening, while you putting my children through whatever you're putting them through and putting them in danger because of who you dating or whatever's going on. But also I have to jump through your manipulations just so I can see my children, makes it sometimes hard to even wake up and think about going to see the children. You try to get a moment to stop thinking about it, but you can't, because I know in order to go see them, I got to go through you, and that means I got to go through your loops. I got to go through your hurdles. I got to stretch 4 times backwards. I got to do a backflip, and then you want to manipulate how much time I get with my kids, and so all of that brings about that hopelessness, because I know, because it's very clear I have no opinion and no say in the life of my children and what they do, what they don't do, how they live their life. All I am is just a guy that they come see 4 days a month when I get them for 2 days every other week. No one puts that into perspective. So when she makes that statement and says, and my mom used it against him, is because when he loses his availability mentally and emotionally through the situation, the mother gets to come back and say he's a deadbeat. And these are real life experiences.
And even if she doesn't come with that deadbeat mentality and everything, the child still see who's in the house and who's gone. So they kind of make up in their mind, oh, he left. Daddy ain't here because he chose. So now when you decide to move on, now the child sees, like, you may try to whatever attempt, because from my experiences, when you try with those boys always gonna choose their mama, because they like, okay, you chose somebody different, and they choose against. And then until they get older and they start to mature, they like, man, then you can have grown folks conversation, be like, man, I would have left mama too. Sometimes it comes to that point to where you mature, and it gets to that point to where the children start to mature. So now I don't have to go through this person. I can have a one-on-one. I can have a actual relationship, and we can actually talk. Ask me anything you want. And I think sometimes it be where the man in the relationship, because he's not necessarily emotionally charged, he can actually have a conversation without trying to point the blame, but actually speak the facts of the relationship. Say what, hey, I did this. Yes, I was wrong here. And not try to demean the other person.
Oh, can we skip the next question and go to the one after that one?
Can't hear you.
You muted, bro.
Muted.
Nobody.
My bad. I said, yeah, it actually fits going right into where we at. All right. Do mothers from current and previous, you're talking about both, previous relationships, have a responsibility with ensuring the father's role with all the children?
Yes.
He was waiting.
Yes. It doesn't matter. Listen, your relationship choice is your relationship choice. That relationship resulted in a child, and that relationship does not work out. The custodial parent has a responsibility to that child to ensure that they make space for the non-custodial parent. I don't think that's talked about enough. Let me say it again. Have a responsibility to that child to make space for the other parent. Now, what I mean when I say make space, oh, you can come get it when you want to? No, that's not making space, right? That is kind of like a indirect passive aggressive form of doing that, right? Saying that the child has a cell phone is not good enough. Did you talk to your daddy today? Have you talked to your daddy this week? Pick up the phone, call your daddy right now as I sit and watch you call him so I can hear that he's on the other end of the phone. Like that's the discipline and the responsibility piece that takes place in there because that child needs that other parent. I know we live in a world that says, no, I don't need, I don't, we don't need him. Yeah, you do. Yes, you do. Because here's what's going to happen. The more you delay the interaction between that child and their father, then you're setting the conditions for that child to go on a journey of frustration, a journey of anxiety, a journey of just trying to figure out who they are, simply because the other half of their identity could not pour into them the necessary things that they needed. So yes, the parent, whether from a current or previous relationship, has a responsibility. Listen, if you're a step parent, you still have that same responsibility. You should don't try to take the place of the other parent. Don't try to take if you're a woman, don't try to take the place of that child mother. If you're a dude, don't try to take the place of that child father. Make space. Ask that child, are you going to spend time with your dad? Are you going to call your dad? Are you going to do all those things? Because it's necessary. Because I'm telling you, if you don't do it, it's only going to bite you in the long run.
Yeah, I get down with that. Definitely get down with that. Someone who has been divorced and been in this situation, I think that's important. And I know we're talking about the father, but I think that that goes into tail with a lot of different relationships. Have even when my sons were with me sometimes, and I would ask them, and even now, and I still do it now. And I'm like, like when it's their mom's birthday or something, like, hey, how you reached out to your mom, how you text her on Mother's Day, just stuff like that. So I know we're talking about the mother. So just to add to what Coach say, yes, absolutely. I think that, when you have that, I think that that's better for the child. Like you mentioned, or someone mentioned earlier, y'all chose to have this child together. So how y'all feel about each other is irrelevant. It's about bringing up this child, and the best that y'all know how. So that means y'all have to put y'all egos and a lot of other things aside to help raise this child. So having a mother that is doing things like what Coach was talking about, hey, reach out to your dad, that helps instill in the child certain things and lessons about how to build a relationship, because not only are you teaching, but you're also instilling, you're showing by example, and you trying to ensure to you also, I think, are being a good example to the child. You saying that, hey, look, even though me and your dad ain't together, that's irrelevant, baby girl or baby boy. You know what I mean? We still care enough about you that, we can put our differences aside because you are more important than our differences. So I think that it's yes, you can't hurt, and nothing but good things can come from, doing it this way.
Resounding yes. I've had the pleasure of having a good child's mother. I ain't got no baby mom. Child's mother who, after our divorce, she continued, like, it wasn't just oh, well, your son did something wrong, I got a call. No, if he did something right, wrong, and different, whatever, hey, he did this. He has a parent teachers conference here. Got this coming up. And just overall making sure that the relationship still was there. And I think we talked more after we split than when we were together, and it was always about, how are we going to come together for this young man? What are we going to do for this young man? And she didn't try to minimize my role. She had gotten married. She didn't try to minimize my role or anything like that. She always made sure that I knew what was going on in his life. I knew where his head was. And if it was something that she saw that, hey, he might need you right now, she gave me that respect of a call or a text or whatever. and let me know that, hey, he needs his daddy. So I think that part right there would allow the children to see that even after a breakup, after a divorce, after whatever, you can still salvage some sort of a relationship with the other person as a parent. There's still respect there, and it doesn't have to be, oh, we're gonna come to blows if I see him. No, it's a respect there to where I want the best for them over there. We just didn't work together. So that allows them to see, like, man, choose the right person ahead of time, not have to go and make some type of decision after to say, man, I should have did this and should have did that.
All around the board, yes. You're the one in the home 9 times out of 10, right? And we're talking about the mother that's in the other home, right? That you're separated from. You're the one in the home trying to act as if the father should know your schedule, what you got going on, right? And I don't think we do a good job at putting ourselves in each other's shoes, as I would say in each other's mind, but putting each other in each other's shoes and trying to see how we see the scenario. And sometimes it's hard to try to, hey, if I call at this time and then I don't know that I'm calling during y'all family dinner or whatever the case may be, and it's hard to try to make it up and figure it out. These things become struggles. So I do agree with the idea of, hey, have you called your father? Because 9 times out of 10, if we see that chat, if we see that as our kids calling, we answering. We're gonna step out of the meeting if we got a meeting. We're gonna step away from the table. We're gonna, whatever we're gonna do, we're gonna, hey, what's going on? Even if it's just a what's up, nothing much. I just wanted to check on you, Dad. Hey, I'm doing good. How you doing, son? How you doing, baby girl? Whatever the case may be. Have that quick conversation and we hang up. Just hearing from our kids is a joy to us because it's a constant mental struggle thinking about what's going on with your child when you're not there. I know, and there's a lot of people out there who don't believe that's a real thing. But fathers, we care and think about our children all the time. When we're not there, we can't protect them. We can't support them. We don't even know. And a lot of half the time, I'm not gonna say a lot of time. Half the time, the fathers are not being included in the child's schedule with what's going on. And then it's like, Daddy, you didn't see me do this. You didn't see me do that. You didn't see me. I didn't even know you were doing it. And so that open line of communication has to be there because it's not even just talking to them on the phone. But let me know you put TJ in soccer camp or whatever the case may be. I want to show up. Let me know you put him in this. I want to show up. Let me know my babies are doing this. I want to be there. But the idea that it's your life, your schedule, and I just better figure it out, that doesn't work. And the kids lose. It ain't me losing. It ain't you losing. The kids lose. You put me through this gymnastic is going to cause the children to get a worse version of myself than they could if we would just co-parent with cohesion. So I say yes. Let's jump to the last question, and we're gonna get ready for our final thoughts. It said, "What would you say is most important to mention if you can help manage societal expectations of fathers?"
I'll jump first out here. Let it go. Whatever your expectation of fathers, let it go, because you're still trying to figure out how to be a mother.
Yeah.
If you're still trying to figure out how to be a mother, you should not have time to have expectations on me being a father. I'll say it like this as well. Just as you're still trying to figure out how to be a mother, that man is still trying to figure out how to be a father. So when it comes down to these expectations, stop having expectations for this and that, and put yourself in the space of learning. Learn what fatherhood looks like based upon what this person is doing. Also, Stop holding them accountable for what your daddy did. Nobody even told you your daddy did it right. He just did it. And that's the only example you got. So don't make your dad the example for your mate, husband, boyfriend, baby daddy, whatever you want to call them, for that person. Because at the end of the day, if you cut that out and you pay attention to what that person is doing and ask questions so that you can learn about what they're doing, you might be surprised. You might learn what a father is.
I'd say to stop playing into the thoughts that all women, all mothers want them daddies out their kids' life and want some money and all they using the kids, and and that all fathers don't want to be in their kids' lives. They want to be deadbeat dads. I think that each scenario, each situation is different, and we have to stop putting everybody in one pot because that's not how it works. So when we look at it with all daddies and all mamas, I think when you do that, you start to speak with a level of venom in your tongue towards the opposite sex or the opposite of where you are in this situation. And you start to see through that lens. And no matter what someone does, it's never enough. So if you go off society's expectations, you're all wrong. You got to go with wherever you are, build there, and seek your own personal growth and allow them to seek their personal growth so that you can meet in the middle to see that, hey, we need to do what's best, not just for the child, but best for ourselves as well. Because if it's all about the children, then I go lacking. But no matter what, when you have a child, you may not be together with that mother, but that's still some sort of family semblance, at least to the child, because they see you as mom, they see him as pop. So you got to look and say, okay, this family structure, it may not be together, but we need to seek a level of maturity where we can seek to do what's best for each and every person. And
Had a couple different thoughts, but I think I landed on this one. And that's presence. Presence matters. I think a lot of time it's overlooked, especially when the mother and the father are not getting along, and we're talking about they're not in the home. I think oftentimes or sometimes, the check is the most important part, or other different things other than the relationship or the presence of the father. And I think in a marriage, in a two-parent home, and they are there, I think presence is important to mention too. I understand we work and we got jobs and we got careers and different things like that, but presence is very important. There's a difference between not being available because you can't, because you're working, you're deployed to Iraq, you have work. But then, one of the other questions about what do we do with the time that we do have. So, to kind of talk about a couple of different things, I think that, you know, presence, the father being presence is something I want to mention. And I think that that's very important, and I think that even if you're in a situation to where you are in a child support situation and maybe the father don't have it, is he a good dude? You know what I mean? He's gonna pick up, little Ray Ray or little Keisha, whoever on time, drop him back off. Is he gonna, be at the recitals or at the meet? You know what I mean? Is he present? And if he's present, then allow him to be present in the kid's life. You know what I mean? Regardless, even if the money and maybe if some other things are not there. So I just think, that the presence of the father is very important, and it goes a long way. As a high school counselor, I talk to students all the time. Some of them with their mother and father, and some of them not. And the ones that the father is present in the life, even though the parents may not be together, is night and day, in many cases. I mean, there are some outliers, but for the most part, even with separated parents, when the father is in the life, there's definitely a difference in the children and the upbringing and grades and how they get along in school and all those different things.
I I love everybody's input on this one, man. I wouldn't even know where to start. It's part of the reason why I asked this question, right? But I'm gonna stick with let them all go. I'm gonna stick with Coach on that one. Let's figure this thing out. If we get back at the end of the day, with all these conversations we have and all these negative uh stereotypes and conversations and arguments going on in this community, he says, if I send pestilence and plagues and sickness upon the land, and he goes into a detail of the things that he will bring upon Israel. And he says, but if my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray, seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven, forgive their sins, and heal their land. Like, at the end of the day, that's the answer to most of these things. We will figure this thing out the right way when we turn back to the good Father, when we turn back to his his ways, when we focus our eyes on him. Then he'll keep them in perfect peace, those whose mind is stayed on him. Right? This is how it works. And so we have to stop trying to build these families and build these lifestyles and build these relationships and all this stuff based upon our emotions, our feelings, the book I read, what my friends did, what my mama did, what my daddy did, and let's build it on the foundation of the Most High. And I think we'll find our way to successful families, to successful parenting, whether that's co-parenting in separate homes or united fronts in the same home. It gets better when we reset and focus on the source. Man, listen, I love this conversation. I wasn't sure. It took me a while. I was digging, trying to figure out how we were going to bring these questions together and drive this conversation. But I'm with some of the best brothers behind a mic and a camera there is on YouTube. I don't care what you say. You put anybody up against them on the tube. That's the best group of brothers right here. And so I appreciate y'all. I appreciate you chat in the chats. But it's time for that time. It's time for our final thoughts.
The myth of the perfect father. Yeah, it is a myth. But I think that as a father, not a baby daddy, I think we should first and foremost realize that children are a reflection of two parties, the mother and the father. And it's not my job to be the best mother. It's not her job to be the best father. I have to realize that even as a father, I am continuing to grow. And I want to see the best of me in my children. I want to see the best of their mother in them. So I can only do my part. My part is to continue to grow in knowledge and grace, continue to grow in him, to continue to allow myself to be a vessel where I can teach them what it is to be the best father that they know, that they can see, that they can come to, that they can depend on. And yes, I have made mistakes, and yes, I have ups and downs, but I'm not trying to teach you everything about my mistakes. I'm trying to teach you and show you how to not make my mistakes so that you can be the best you. Because yes, you are a reflection of your parents, but you are an individual, and I want to see you become the best you can be. So I'm not trying to make you a mini version of me. I'm just trying to teach you where I am and where I've been so that you won't have to go there and you can go further. So being a father is, to me, an awesome position in life, and it's one that continues to give. Even after they aren't in your home, you're still the father. You're still leading them to, in some capacity, to show them where it is to be at this level and further. So I enjoyed the conversation, and I appreciate each and every comment in the chat. as well as these gentlemen. Thank you.
Tonight's show is called The Myth of the Perfect Father, Why Dads Seem to Be Drowning. We've talked a lot about the myth of the perfect father, but I want to share just a quick comment or quick final thought about why dads seem to be drowning. Because it's hard. It's hard being a father. There are a lot of different aspects and a lot of different things, a lot of different avenues, and a lot of different tentacles that come into being a father. And there are even more that go into being an effective father. You know, if you want to be effective in your children's life, you know, it comes with a lot more things. There comes with a lot of learning, you know, in order to pass on information, in order to pass on good information, you know, we have to learn it. So that means we have to learn from some of our mistakes. And sometimes we don't learn those mistakes until later on in life. So again, being a dad sometimes is just freaking hard. It's just plain old hard. And that's why sometimes it may seem like dads are drowning. But to close the circle on this, on my final thought, there is help. There are platforms like this all across YouTube and on social media. There are coaches out there. There are all different types of people. There's wolf packs. There are places where you can go to get help and support, and talk to people about how to be better and how not necessarily be better, but how to keep from drowning. It does play a part in our mindset and how we think about things and how we view things. And if we are drowning as a father, sometimes those things can be passed on or rub off on our children, our wives, and different things like that. So we have to, um, for the most part, try to work on ourselves as men and try to get ourselves together because we drown out there because sometimes just being a dad is just plain no hard. But most of us accept the challenge, and that is something that just comes with the territory. So that's my final thought for this evening.
I've been saying for quite some time, this thing. If you look in the Bible, there are several references, and it refers to God as the Father. And I've been saying for quite some time that there's an attack on the father, and it's happening through the notion of fatherhood. If fatherhood is becoming optional in the world, then it only makes sense why you see in today's world the father is also becoming optional. Why does why dads seem to be drowning? I would say it's simple because family is becoming optional. Not only is family becoming optional, structure has become pliable. It is too easy and too common to see a disjointed family, a disenfranchised father, if you will. That's not good. That's not good at all, especially when you start looking at the statistics of what family looks like, especially in our community. That's not a good thing. You made a decision, right? The results of your relationship should not define the outcome of your behavior. I think that's another thing that we need to understand. The relationship didn't work. So what? Don't take how you feel because of a failed relationship and project that on your child and then turn your child to a certain degree against their father. Um, it's disheartening. It's uncomfortable. It's not a good place to be in. And so you have fathers who are walking around frustrated, angry, so forth and so on. You made a decision to be with that person. That decision required maturity. So now it's up to you to mature into the decision that you made. The child is here. You don't get the opportunity to sit back now and act as though you're still the child. No, you have a responsibility to that child. You are charged with raising that child in the most effective manner that the Bible describes for you to understand. Until we get to that point in casting down how we feel, even though we made a decision, that decision didn't work out in our favor, we're going to always run into these types of issues. So it's important for us to recognize that as a parent, you have a responsibility to that child. That child deserves both parents, mother and father, One is not greater than the other, but together, both of you can be great in the life of the child. And that is my final thought.
It seems as if Coach was able to see through my screen into my notebook, and he just reworded my words a little more exquisite. No, I'm joking, but I stand right there with all my brothers on this topic. I don't have much. I said a lot of what I wanted to say in my last comment, but let us get our focus back on the Father. And I think we'll understand the necessity for fathers and fatherhood, because I swear that has been my cry a long time ago. When he talks about fathers, it's the same thing for me when it comes to fathers, when it comes to manhood, when it comes to marriage and family, because the same way that the father is married to Israel, right? It's the same way that he wants man to be married to the woman, the same way he wants Israel to love the father, the same way he wants the wife to love the husband, the same way he's a father to Israel, the same way he wants father. You see, it's a pattern. He mirrors the pattern. That's why when Rose say he's an example, like that's what a father is to him, an example that is resounding, because that's who the father is to us. He's an example in his relationships of how he wants us to be in our relationships. But as we destroy the very images he left in this world for us of him, you want to know what he looks like? How he cares for us? Let's get back to bringing fathers back in the home. Let's get back to husbands loving their wives. You want to know how we're supposed to honor and love him? Let's get back to children having fathers to honor and respect. Let's get back to wives loving and respecting their husbands. You see what I'm saying? But as we destroy it, we destroy the image of him and his word. And there we find ourselves as a lost generation. And that's really all I got. So we just got to clean it up. And I think we'll do well. Man, we got through it. We made it on the other side. Maybe I'm the only one who mustache is sweating and nervous on this conversation, but man, it was a good conversation. I enjoyed it. Y'all know what we got going on this weekend. But Coach, you want to talk about Saturday?
Sure. Saturday morning, 10:30 a.m., our quarterly community meeting. Everybody in the community, come on out. Crystal Everett has already put the link in the chat. It's also on the message board on totalmindsetshift.com/groups. Sunday, of course, 11:30, we got Sunday brunch hosted by that young man right there in that corner, poor man's Dr. Phil. Then, of course, we got Bible study at 2 p.m. And that's what our weekend's going to look like.
Yep. So hope to see y'all all there this weekend. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your time off. Enjoy your time with your significant others, with your children, with your family. Enjoy your time alone. Enjoy your rest. But either way, we see you again next week here on The Hearts of Men. And have a great night.